Hi everybody and welcome to another exciting episode of the Ungrownups video transmission. I'm your host Mark, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Star Wars The Black Series Wave 1, which is made up of these four figures: Luke Skywalker, Darth Maul, the Sand Trooper, and R2-D2. I'm really happy to see that Hasbro is sort of taking Star Wars in a new direction and branching out in this much larger scale. I'm 37 years old, and for my entire life, Star Wars figures, with the exception of the 1/6 scale figures, which I've never really collected, has always been one size, 3 3/4 inch. That's the scale. That's what we've been working with. But now these guys are like mega scale. They're like super action figures. These things are huge. I mean, it's always hard to see in pictures, but if you can see by the size of my hand just exactly how large these figures are, it's quite surprising, and I'm very happy that Hasbro has decided to go in this direction. These are the four figures that make up Wave 1. Wave 2, which I believe is coming out this October, so not too terribly far away, will be Han Solo, Slave Leia, Boba Fett, and Greedo, of which I've already got Han Solo and Boba Fett pre-ordered at bbts.com. You can do that below in the link. I believe you can still pick up all four of these figures there as well, so I'll post a link for that too. Past that, I'm not sure. I know that in Wave 3, we're supposed to be getting Bespin Luke Skywalker, who I'm highly looking forward to. I believe we're getting an Attack of the Clones version of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I'm not sure who's actually going to round out the remainder of that wave. I think a clean Stormtrooper, not a Sand Trooper, but I believe a clean Stormtrooper will be in that wave as well. Who the fourth figure is, I'm not sure. I'm dying for a Darth Vader. I really want a Darth Vader, but since he's probably just about everybody's favorite character, or at least on the most wanted list now that we have a new 6-inch scale to collect, I'm pretty sure they're going to hold him out for something special. So I hope it's not a con exclusive that we can't get our hands on. I'm sure it wouldn't be. Not a mainstay character like that. But until then, let's take a look at these four figures in Wave 1. And I got to tell you, the packaging is really collector friendly. You're able to just cut the tape across the bottom, on the bottom of the package, slide both the clamshell, well, not the clamshell, but the plastic tray and the black cardboard backing. Just slide right out. You take the figure out, play with it, pose it, do whatever, and then you can slide it right back in for display. So I'm really happy that they give us collector-friendly packaging, of which I will not be throwing these away. Another nice little detail is the individual little black monochromatic black and silver artwork that's at the top of these boxes. And the other really nice thing, let me turn these around so you can see, is you get some nice black and silver monochromatic artwork on the back as well, and a little bitty write-up. I don't need a whole lot. We know these characters, we're familiar with them, but you have, Luke climbing out of the X-Wing, you have Darth Maul taking on both Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, you have the famous "these aren't the droids you're looking for" scene with the sand speeder, and you have Leia, recording her message in the back of R2. So very iconic images of these characters. Nice packaging. Love that it's collector friendly. But enough about these freaking boxes. Let's get these guys opened up and take a closer look at how cool each one individually is. And if you're on the fence about getting any of these guys, hopefully this review will help you guys make up your mind about who to get, or maybe just pick up all four. So I guess it only makes sense to start out reviewing these figures in the order in which they released. Luke Skywalker is labeled number 1, so we're going to start with him. This is everything you get with Luke right out of the package. You can see that he comes with his X-Wing helmet here. The visor doesn't go up and down, and the chin strap doesn't move, but you can see that it is a very soft, you can even hear it, pliable rubber. That kind of conforms, and you can squeeze it and get it all over his head, which is really nice. I'm glad they didn't include like a second head sculpt just to put the helmet on. But I do have to say right off the bat that going with X-Wing Luke, I guess, is kind of an odd choice. I mean, he looks stellar. I'm certainly not complaining. But of all the Lukes to start off the line with, X-Wing Luke, I don't know, it just seems like an odd choice. But at least they give us R2, so we do have, two figures that sort of go together. Also here, you have Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, which I think it has a pretty adequate length on it, which is really nice. Very nice detail, paint apps on the hilt itself. One of the really cool things about this lightsaber is that you can remove the blade. All lightsabers have removable blades in this series. And the lightsaber comes with a little loop on the end, which I don't know if you can see there, but it's like right there on the end. And there's a little hook right here on his belt, and you can actually loop the lightsaber over that little hook, and it can hang right there on his belt. very nice touch. I'm really glad they included that. He also comes with his very trademarked, his famous blaster here. Very nice paint apps on it as well. It's got a brown wooden hilt, painted wooden hilt, and then a more silvery kind of tip on the end of the blaster there. So nice paint apps even on the tiny little gun, which he can hold in either hand. The left hand's got a trigger finger on it. The right hand looks more like it's sculpted to hold the lightsaber itself, but I'm sure you could swap it up and do whatever you wanted to. Let's get some of his accessories out of the way, because we want to look at the articulation on this guy. I'm not typically a stickler for articulation walkthroughs. I do them sometimes. I'm not very thorough with them because I think that sometimes they can be the most boring part of a figure review, just in my own opinion. But as this is a new line of figures and we're not all that familiar with, the articulation points, I figured I would go through them for the first, at least the first wave of figures, until we get a feel for what these figures, how these figures articulate. But starting off with the head, you do have a 360-degree movement on the head, and you can tilt it up, and it's got a really good neck joint for tilting up, back, and down, so you can get a pretty good range of motion. I like that you can even rock the head from side to side a little bit. Don't know if that's intentional or just a side effect of the actual joint itself. Arms are on a pin socket, both arms, so you can get a full 360-degree range of motion here, and they do go in and out and all around, so pretty good range of motion in the upper arms, and you do have a pretty good, as you can see, it even hyperextends joint at the elbow. It's not a double joint. That would have been nice, but double joints have a tendency to look a little clumsy, so I'm kind of okay with that. The hands are on a 360-degree cut, and they also, it's hard to see, but they also bend in and out. This hand actually bends downwards and forwards, and that is the arm that has the pistol, so you can get more of a straight shot. Whereas the hand with the lightsaber looks like it folds. Does it do the same thing? Or does it fold in and out? No, it folds in and out. It folds this way. So mine feels like it's really stiff, so I'm not going to stress it, but it does kind of fold like that. So you can curl the lightsaber blade around. There is no waist articulation, but you do get an upper ab crunch, which is pretty generous. Right through there, and this little tube is actually connected at both endpoints to the chest, so you don't have to worry about spinning it too far, twisting it too far, and breaking that. The hips are which are impeded a little bit by this strap, which is always, in my opinion, always hung too low, but that's just me. Maybe it was intentional. But the legs sort of have a G.I. Joe sort of articulation point. I guess if you pull these up more, you can move them a little higher at the top of the hip. And then it also has an upper thigh cut, sort of like DC Universe Classics figures have the upper thigh. So it does have an upper thigh swivel. And then both legs have a double knee joint, which is very nice. And while it doesn't look too good, while opened all the way up, it looks pretty good while closed. So I'm super happy with the double leg or the double knee articulation points. They're one of my most favorite parts of articulation, and I think every action figure should include them. So even with the harness, you can see that you do get a pretty decent range of motion out of the legs. And then for the feet, they are the boots have a cut swivel at the very top of the boot. That articulation point is different on each leg for Luke because his articulates here at the top of the boot where this strap is. It articulates where the bottom of the pants fold here. Okay, so here we have Luke with his helmet on, lightsaber on the hilt on the belt, and a pistol out, ready to attack something coming at him as he's just hopped out of his snowspeeder. Really like this pose. Of course, you know, like I said, you can move the harness up and get more dramatic angle or action out of the legs. But really good look. Not my most favorite look, I guess. You know, when I think of Luke, I think of him wielding his lightsaber, and when I think of the pistol, I think of the famous shot on Bespin when he's just gotten to Cloud City and he's brandishing the pistol, which I thought was really nice too. But he looks really good here. So let's try out one more pose with this guy before we zoom in and take a closer look at some of the detail that Hasbro has sculpted into these fantastic figures. Okay, so even though this hand is sculpted for the pistol, you can clearly get the lightsaber in it, and it looks really good. The finger coming out looks really good when you put it on the gold button. The igniter button for the lightsaber looks really nice. I really like how these figures articulate. I think it lends itself to some pretty dramatic poses. I used to be a huge fan of the larger scale Hasbro Star Wars Unleashed figures they did, which were, of course, stactions. They didn't really move or do anything. I think these are a nice scale jump between the 3 3/4 inch figures and those larger immovable staction figures. I think these things are nice. They look really good. They can look almost like sculpted pieces once you get them into a really nice position that you like to leave them in. I think, it'd been nice. I know not probably screen accurate to have a holster for the pistol, but that would have been kind of nice, I guess, to have on this figure so that he could actually hold his pistol as well. But we didn't get one, and of course, again, it wouldn't be screen accurate. As such, you kind of have to dump the pistol off somewhere. But this may be how he stays on my shelf. I'm sorry if you can hear my son in the background, pulling double duty today, reviewing figures and taking care of a little one. So why don't we zoom in and look at some of the finer detail on this figure, and then move on to Darth Maul. So zooming in here on the head sculpt for Luke, I have to say that for me, it's not a spot-on representation. I can't say that many people get the likeness of Mark Hamill right as Luke Skywalker. Hot Toys did, of course, but they had 12 inches of figure to work with. So I can't say that this is the best head sculpt of Luke that I've ever seen, but I can certainly say that it's a passable one. You would think with a larger figure and more space that they'd have more time for more detail, or more room for more detail, and it'd be more spot-on. And some of the sculpting in this line is stellar and absolutely fantastic, but I can't say this is the best face likeness of Mark Hamill I've ever seen. It's certainly passable. There's certain traits there that I can see. They've got his birthmark. There's there's things there. I can see it, but it's just not the best. So for me, it's passable. I'm gonna let it be. There's so many other Lukes that they can release in this scale and in this line that I'm sure sooner or later we'll get a head sculpt that sticks. And since the heads are interchangeable, we can just pop it on your favorite figure once we get a really good one. But taking a look at the detail in the suit, it's absolutely spot on. They've done such a good detail with the sculpting, the detail in the buttons, and all the little gizmos and the tubes, the belts, the folds in the skin. I mean, in the suit just look very nice and natural. Very nice detail here on the side when you've got the little instruments or whatever it is that he has in his shirt sleeve, in his pocket. Looking around on the back, the ribbing on the back of the vest here just looks really nice. Lots of really nice folds laying in the appropriate places, pockets, detailing. Looks really good. Again, sorry for my little guy in the background. He just looks, the detail's fantastic. I just wish we had a much better head sculpt to deal with. That's certainly not the case with the rest of the figures, especially with Darth Maul. He has got a fantastic head sculpt. So let's move on to the second figure in Wave 1. Okay, moving right along to Darth Maul. It's the second figure in this wave, and he's actually a very surprisingly awesome figure. I do think Darth Maul is a strange inclusion for this line. With all of the news coming out of the new Star Wars and, people having that nostalgia for the old, I'm not sure why we didn't get an old school villain. I'm not saying lead off the line with Vader, but, yeah, I don't know. Maybe maybe he fit the build. Maybe they wanted to throw in a prequel figure. Maybe they wanted somebody who could, make use of the great articulation. Whatever the case may be, Darth Maul, second figure in the wave. He's actually really cool. He's not without his problems, but he is a pretty fantastic figure. Taking a look at all the accessories he comes with, he does come with his, if I can hold on to them, the binoculars that he used in his scene tracking our good guys down to Tatooine. He does come with an unhooded head sculpt, which is very, very nice. And he does come with his lightsaber, which does come in two parts. You can put it together. It does make a pretty lengthy lightsaber, so I'm really happy about the length. And both blades come out, which is really nice, because what's really cool is that, like Luke could store his lightsaber hilt on his belt, so can Darth Maul. There's a little, I know you're not going to be able to see it, but there's a little peg standing up right there, and that actually connects to his belt. So that's a pretty fantastic little touch. I'm glad that they included that. So basically, the way this whole cloak and head sculpt work here is that, as you can see, this cloak is a very soft, very pliable, soft rubber, as you can see. It's not soft goods, but it's pretty close. It's just a very pliable, very soft rubber. And his head sculpt here is actually, the head sculpt is actually sculpted into this rubber mold. So you get this really nice draping effect of the horns underneath the cowl or the cloak, which is really, really cool. I'm glad they included that look. I mean, because this look is very iconic. This was the first time we saw sort of Darth Maul in action. Was on Tatooine when he attacks Qui-Gon. So I'm glad they included it, but it's definitely not the way I think most people are going to stand him on their shelves. I think he's gonna, he looks pretty fantastic with just the with the cloak off and the regular head. So why don't we zoom in real quick and take a look at this head sculpt and some of the detail on the cloak before we take that thing off and reveal his really killer underbody. Okay, so as you can see here, Darth Maul looks pretty intimidating underneath that cowl, underneath the cloak. You can see he's got his head's kind of tilted down, his eyes are tilted up, very menacing, pun intended, look. You can see some of the nice sculpted and molded draping of the cloak, the hood up over his spikes, the bone protrusions on the top of his head. That looks really nice. And my 3-year-old's going nuts. And you can see some of the nice draping they've molded and sculpted into this very soft, pliable cloak. So nice draping in the back, looks really cool. Nice and full. It's a nice inclusion. He looks really good in this mode, but I can't say that this is how he's going to stay on my shelf. I like the other version way too much. So why don't we get this cloak off and take a closer look at that version of Darth Maul. So here's Darth Maul with his cloak and extra head sculpt off and the single head put on. And as you can see, proportions look really good. I guess if this figure did have a down point for me, if there was something bad I had to say about this figure, I think his boots are a little large. They just look a little big. Maybe from this far away, it's not so visible. But when you get up close, they just, I don't remember them being that big in the film. Maybe they were, but they're just really bulky. Compared to Luke and the Stormtrooper in this line, his boots are really huge, and I don't know if that's because they're kind of thinking most people will put him in some sort of kicking pose. I'm not sure. But just to show you real quick, this is what the cloak looks like with his... with it off of him. Like I said, the head sculpt is molded into it. You can't remove it. I mean, I guess you could if you wanted, but you would pretty much be destroying it. And so that's kind of like what it looks like. I think it's a neat idea to sculpt the head inside the cloak. It's pretty cool. But again, this will probably end up staying in the box for me. Because this is really the way I want to display my Darth Maul. He looks really cool. He pretty much has the exact same... Well, that's not entirely true. For the most part, he has the same articulation as Luke Skywalker. He does have a really nice up and down joint on the head, so where the head can move around and also rock all the way back and forward, which is really nice. There's some good poses you can get him in there. The arms still have the 360-degree pin socket. He does have a single cut. Oh no, that is a pin socket joint again at the elbow, and 360-degree movement on the hands, the cut joint, and he does have the flexing wrists. But I got to tell you, the paint on here is so tight. I haven't broke the seal, and I've barely taken these figures out to play with them, that I just feel like I'm going to break it if I try to force it. So I'm just not going to do that. Maybe he'll loosen up over time. But whereas Luke had the upper torso crunch. The ab crunch going on the upper torso, he actually does have a more of a standard waist articulation, and it is on a ball joint, so you can get quite a bit of motion. But he doesn't come apart, so there's no, slicing Maul in half action. You can see where his lightsaber can connect to his hilt, or the hilt can connect to his belt, which is really nice. And it may have been a better way to go, but for the cloak, but for whatever reason, they saved the soft goods for the undercloak. So underneath these two small pieces of very pliable soft rubber, you do have 3 sections of soft goods here in the middle and right here, and you have some more soft plastic in the back. The legs look incredible. I love these huge baggy pants with the double articulation point here at the knee, which is really, really good. As you can see, I haven't messed around too much with this figure. And, as you can see, like right here, just like Ray Park, he's got a pretty good range of motion as far as, like if you had like a really good base to put him on, you can get him into some quite nice kicking poses. And then, as you can see here, what I'm talking about, the bigger boots, he does have a fair amount of range of motion on them as well, and a really nice, just absurd ankle rocker. Look at that. You can turn it all the way in and out. So very nice ankle rocker, again, to help with some of those really nice positions. So why don't we take a look at some of the poses that Darth Maul can get himself into before moving on to the next figure in this wave. So yes, Darth Maul can grip the binoculars with both hands, which is really nice, but with his cloak on, he can't raise them up to his head because of the rubber cloak actually just keeps pushing his arms down. So that's a disappointment, and I'm almost thinking that I'm probably going to have sort of the same problems when I go to try to put both of his hands on his lightsaber like we saw in that famous fight in the desert. So what's going on here is the actual length of the lightsaber hilt helps out a lot with him being able to hold with both hands. I think this is a very fantastic pose, and I'm very tempted to put him on my shelf like this. This was one of my favorite scenes in the film, was when he had that almost samurai sword look to his lightsaber because the hilt was so long. It looks like a really long, like, samurai sword to me. And the cloak just looked awesome flowing in the wind. I really liked this scene in the film. The problem here is you can't really turn his head because the head's not really articulated. It just pops right on, but the rubber keeps moving it back. So you can't really move it around too terribly much. So you really only can get him looking straight on, which is not a deal breaker, but it's also not ideal. So he looks pretty cool like this, but I think the real fun is going to be had when we get this cloak off. So let's take a look at some of the poses without the cloak and see how posable he really is. Okay, I think this is pretty close to the pose that a lot of people may go with. Double-bladed lightsaber out, cloak off. This is the iconic look of Darth Maul. His very famous scene in The Phantom Menace in the reactor room with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. I think this is the pose that a lot of people kind of go with, the way, how the battle actually started when he opened up the hangar bay doors and came out and ignited both ends of his lightsaber. That was like the blow you away moment in the very first teaser trailer we ever got. I was always kind of mad at George for spoiling that in the teaser. I think it would have been a lot better just to show Darth Maul with his lightsaber on one end and then never show it in the trailer and then surprise everybody when that happened in the theater. But hey, I think we all have better ideas of how the prequel trilogy should have gone. But certainly wasn't the worst decision he made. But this guy is absolutely fun to play with. He's fun to pose. He's fun to get in like all kinds of different positions. He's certainly because of the all of the articulation points, you can really get this guy into some pretty fantastic poses. And all you really need is a really good base. I have a Japanese import base that I think is pretty much used for more of Japanese-based figures, humanoid figures, and we sort of move things around in our house, and so everything is kind of boxed up right now, and I wish I could find those stands because I think they would be fantastic to use with the scale figure. But Darth Maul here is actually, he's actually a really standout figure in this line, just because of the articulation, the posability, and the head sculpt. We really need to zoom in here and take a closer look at those head sculpts because they are just absolutely fantastic, and they are the standout feature on this particular figure. Alright, so zooming in here on Darth Maul's face, like I said, the head sculpt here is one of the standout features for this figure. I just want to move him to the side real quick because I want to bring in the other body just so that you can see the head sculpt. I may have to move him completely out of frame. Just so that you can see, or laying down on the ground. And by lay, I mean fall. Here's the head sculpt with the cloaked version, the hooded version. As you can see, it looks really intense, looks really nice. Eyes pointed up. Looks really good. Nice appropriate amount of shine to the face. Looks fantastic. Same amount of detail was taken and put into that figure as this one. So, zooming in here, you can see just the intense look on Darth Maul's face. Looks absolutely fantastic. The detail, the paint apps. I mean, it's not sloppy paint either. I mean, everything is just absolutely perfect. Nice sculpted horns on his head. I mean, the detail is just ridiculous. The ears, I mean, it really does look like skin with paint. You know, he looks painted and tattooed up. He looks like, you know, you can see, look at the detail in the jaw and in the ear. It just looks fantastic. I mean, this is a standout figure in this line, no doubt. Certainly not the most popular figure in this line as of right now. Only time will tell if that'll come. But, I mean, I just can't get over the detail in this guy. He just looks sick. But speaking of popular figures, the most popular, the hardest to find figure, and the ones that's going for the most money right now is definitely the Sand Trooper. So let's take a look at him. This is the most underrated figure in the wave, and I think that's why he became the sleeper hit that he is. He was so underrated by me personally that I didn't even pre-order him. I only pre-ordered Luke, R2, and Darth Maul. Then I started seeing the reviews, and everybody was gushing about this figure, and I couldn't understand why. I was like, it's just a Sand Trooper. What's the big deal? Then I started seeing the prices go up. Then I saw that he sold out on BBTS when nobody else had sold out, when none of the other figures had sold out. Then I saw that he was like on Amazon. I think he was going for like $30 when everybody else was still 20. I couldn't figure it out. Now he's up to almost 40. His prices are skyrocketing on eBay. So I went out one day to my local Toys R Us, and I had just missed them being put out. A guy said that they just put out 2 boxes of them, and they were all kind of like gone instantly. Then I was very lucky to make my way to a Target, and I had just seen they put out 1 case. I guess there comes 4 figures to 1 case. They only had all 4 figures. So I snatched him up real quick, took him back to work, checked him out on my lunch break, and I was blown away. And I saw instantly why he is the standout figure in this group. And it's because of his spot-on sculpting, his awesome articulation, and, I mean, he basically is like a 6-inch scale Hot Toys figure. He's absolutely perfection head to toe. He is the only perfect figure in this line. There is not a single bad thing that you can say about this figure. He's absolutely fantastic. So let's take a look at him. First of all, he comes with 2 monster rifles. He comes with this big bad boy right here. Then he comes with this huge heavy rifle right here with a very soft rubber or soft plastic strap, which does go over his shoulder. He comes with, you know, the standard Stormtrooper blaster, and he comes with this amazing backpack. Sorry, my son desperately wants to get in the door and play with these toys. He can't stand it when I'm doing reviews. He just wants to come over here and play, and he doesn't understand why he can't. One day I'll let him come in here and review a figure. I mean, you won't get any kind of information out of it, but it'll be quite entertaining. He comes with this monster backpack, which just plugs in right on the back, right there. And there's a little plug right here, and it just fits in that hole on its back. And then it does come with the little, I guess this would be like a bandolier of extra clips, and that just kind of like just sits right over his shoulder. You just take that, lay it right over the shoulder, and then kind of plug him in. My son is going nuts in the other room. I have 2 little boys, a 3-year-old and a 4-month-old. And they can pose quite the challenge when trying to review figures and share rooms with them at the same time. So I know you guys are probably wondering, does the pauldron come off? Yes, the pauldron comes off. You can take the orange pauldron off and just have a regular, albeit dirty, Stormtrooper, which is really, really, really cool. And we'll actually take a look at that. So let's get the rifle out of his hand. Let's take the backpack back off. You just pop the head right off. Ooh, I wonder if Luke's head fits on here. Oh, that would be fantastic. And then you just pop it right off the head, pull it right off the arm, and there you have it. Albeit dirty, there is a regular Stormtrooper. Now, we are going to get a clean Stormtrooper, a very shiny, armored, very new armored, all white, no dust, no dirt, no scuffs and scratches version in Wave 3. And you probably can't see how dirty he is until we zoom in on him. But this is why he's so fantastic. He's absolutely fantastic. Front to back, toe to head, he is stellar. Actually, I'm very interested now. I wonder if Luke... You know, I'm gonna bet that Luke's head is not gonna fit on here. Sorry to do this off camera. It'll sit on there, but it won't plug in. But that would be fantastic. It kind of sits on top of there, but it won't actually plug in. The hole is too big for this peg. Oh, I wish they were swappable. That would be so fantastic. That would just be awesome. I would love to have a Luke and Han in Stormtrooper. Maybe it's because that they're army builders. Maybe that's another reason why people are snapping these figures up so quickly. I'm not sure, but I can tell you, if you only get one figure in this whole line, make it the Sand Trooper. He's totally worth it. So why don't we zoom in and take a closer look at some of the fine detail on this Sand Trooper figure. Oh, I'm getting so tongue-tied today. Okay, so hopefully this is coming across on camera. My camera has a tendency, while be at high def, it does have a tendency to brighten things up quite a bit. If you guys remember my Man of Steel Superman review, every time I showed him on screen, he was like super bright blue, and he's really not that dark. So this figure may not be coming across as dirty as he actually is, but in hand, he's quite filthy. You can see nice sculpted detail right there on the pauldron where it looks like that strap is pulling the orange foam a little too tight. A little sloppy paint right there on the side. Not too bad. You can see some of the detail here on the side. Nice painted paint apps and detail on the helmet. Love all the detail in that Stormtrooper helmet. I mean, just getting this figure in hand, just seeing him in the package is all you need to see just exactly how really awesome this figure is and why he definitely is the standout figure. There is the I'm assuming would be clip, ammo clip over his shoulder. You see some of the detail in the abdomen area. Again, I apologize for my son acting crazy in the other room. Some of the nice detail here on the shins and in the armor. Really good. And then this super heavy survival pack that's on his back. You can see all of the knobs and dials and detail in the back. Very nice detail. Not a lot of paint apps would be my only complaint. Maybe if it had a little more detail. Maybe this is screen accurate and I just, but there's basically two colors other than the black that is molded in, is that grayish blue and that white. But just some super nice detail. So let's move on to seeing this guy into in a couple of poses and show off some of the articulation, because it's really quite nice. So here's your just standard Sand Trooper pose. You can see that he's on patrol, got the heavy blaster slung over his shoulder, just out on patrol. Just a simple steady pose. Wouldn't even mind having him stand on my shelf just like this. That's what I'm talking about. This figure's so good that even in a neutral pose, he looks fantastic. Ah, my son, he's going nuts. Okay, here he is with the other blaster in a different pose, a little more pensive, a little more ready to go. This is more likely how this guy's going on my shelf. He's absolutely fantastic. Love this guy. I know I'm just gushing about this figure, so I'm just going to shut up and show you another pose. This actually may be how this guy goes on my shelf. So don't let it be said that just because he's super highly detailed, crazy paint apps, that he's not well articulated. He is as well articulated as everybody else in this line. Well, maybe not R2. But he does have double jointed knees, amazing, just ridiculous amount of ankle rocker motion here. He doesn't have a waist articulation point, but he does have, like Luke, he has that upper torso articulation point where the armor breaks. Nice 360 degree on the head, can go up and down, crazy good. And you know what's awesome is, unlike any other figure in this line, he's got double jointed elbows, which is absolutely fantastic. So he can get into some crazy cool poses. And I gotta tell you, stripping this guy down and just having a standard Stormtrooper just gets me so excited for that super clean Stormtrooper we're gonna get in Wave 3. I don't even know why they're waiting that long. Give him to me now. I want him now. This is why this figure is the best in the line. If you can only afford one, get this guy. And if you can get all four, get them, and then sit back and realize I was telling you the truth when I tell you this guy is fantastic. Alright, so let's move on to the number 4 figure in this line, R2-D2. Another personal fan favorite. Okay, so here's little R2. Not to be outdone by his larger counterparts, R2 comes with the most accessories of any figure in Wave 1. So, as you can see, he comes with, basically right here, these two things are the side panels for his legs. They plug right in. The reason you're given these is because you can actually add in his two thrusters. So these are for when you're not using the thrusters. These are when you put the thrusters in. And then we'll zoom in and we'll look at all this in finer detail. He also comes with Luke's lightsaber from Episode 6, Empire Strikes Back. He comes with a sensor, and then he comes with some sort of other sensor. He also comes with two arms. They come out of his chest. Again, we'll look at that when we zoom in. Okay, so I do have this funny angle because I do want to show you that on the top of R2, what you can do is you pop off these little pegs. There's 3. Each one of them has a little handle, a little notch that helps you get your fingernail underneath it. Really in there tight. Okay, and as you can see, you're actually able to fit the lightsaber hilt down in there, like that. You can see it. Probably goes the other way. No, the head's too big to go in. Yeah, I know how that sounded. Then you can also put in the blue sensor, and then you can also see his little antenna that kind of plugs in right there. So you can see the different types of accessories that you can plug in wherever you'd like on the top of his head, which is fantastic. You know, while he is smaller than the rest of these figures, he is still the same price. He is still $19.99, and for that price, I kind of feel like he's the least valued of all the figures. He's the least value of all the figures. I think at $19.99, he still should have come with like maybe the drink tray accessory from Return of the Jedi. That would have been fantastic, since they still give us the lightsaber gimmick, which I thought was pretty cool. But as you can tell, it looks really nice. I'm glad they included all of this stuff. But yeah. Looks really cool. Why don't we zoom out, look at the front of R2, and then the other feature, which I haven't shown you yet. Okay. All right, so here's 2 other gimmicks that R2 comes with. Here on the front, there are 2 panels, both of which are openable. Able to be opened. What? Openable. Whatever. But then you do have to sort of get your fingernail in there to sort of lift that out. So right here, you can see that this is his universal connector that he uses to hack into things and change, you know, different settings and stuff. That's really cool. And then over here, he actually comes with, if I can get it out and show you, and I've closed it back up again. This works so much easier when I was practicing it before review. And he actually comes with the little arm that he uses to fight Yoda over the little light in Luke's pack on Dagobah. So that makes me really hopeful that we're going to get more of a Dagobah Yoda. I hope he comes with a lightsaber, but a Dagobah Yoda with maybe some backpack pieces for Luke. That'd be pretty fantastic. I want to show you one other thing here with R2, is that his head rotates, of course, no doubt. Close these panels up. His head rotates, and we've seen one of the other smaller R2s do this, but if you rotate his head, it actually lowers his third leg, and it too is articulated and has wheels on it, which are awesome, that allows R2 to sort of roll. So what we need to do now is kind of show you with R2 with his thrusters on, and finish this review up. And thankfully my son has settled down. Okay, so here's a much better look at R2 with his third leg out, rolling about. Third leg, God, this has become the worst review ever. You can see here that I do have his blasters out. So if you were to, let's see if I can do this, rotate his head all the way around, pull the third leg back up underneath, then you can see we do have R2 in his thruster hovering fire shooting mode. And what you do here, if you want to take these out, you just pop those right out, and then you just pop in the little panels on the side so that R2 looks like his old self again. And I think that's a very nice touch, something that they most certainly didn't have to add, but I'm really glad that they did. So let's zoom back out and see how Luke and R2 scale together. Okay, so here we go. You can see how well the figures scale with one another. They're absolutely fantastic. They look great. These are absolutely some of the best figures that Hasbro's put out in a while. I'm so excited for this line that this is the only way I'm going to collect my Star Wars figures from now on. So, as always, we're going to ask if you dug the review, please like, comment, or subscribe. Please check out our Facebook channel at facebook.com/ungrownups, and be sure to check out our podcast, which is new every 3 weeks over at ungrownups.com or at iTunes. So until next time, peace.